Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to NYC Outward Bound School's first ever virtual gala. My name is Zoe Priscilla Davis, and I'm an 11th grader at Brooklyn Collaborative Studies, an NYC Outward Bound school in Carroll Gardens. I'm excited to be emceeing tonight's event with my co-host, Jean Carlos.
Thanks, Zoe, and welcome everyone. My name is Carlos Perez, and I'm a senior at Washington Heights Expeditionary Learning School, known as WHEELS, an NYC Outward Bound school. Zoe and I are among the 18,000 students impacted by this wonderful organization each year. NYC Outward Bound Schools operates a citywide network of public schools in partnership with the Department of Education. They also reach thousands of students and educators outside of this network through school coaching, professional development, and adventure and team building programs, which this past year went completely virtual. One of the most impressive ways that NYC Outward Bound Schools makes an impact is through its college supports. My teachers and counselors at Wheels never let us fall behind or miss a deadline. When I was talking to some friends who don't attend Wheels, I was surprised to hear that some hadn't applied to any schools the week leading up to the national decision date, which was on May 1st. The week before decision day, our college counselor, Rocco, met virtually with the entire senior class and said, "If you're unsure about what you're doing next year, let's have a meeting. Even if you're not going to college, you need to have a plan." You can tell that the teachers and staff you can tell that the teachers and staff consider teaching more than just a job. It really shows in how they care for their students, and I wish every school in New York City had that same kind of support. Back in the fall, I was a student who didn't have a plan. So my counselor and I had a lot of one-on-one virtual meetings about the things I wanted in a school. And then he gave me a list of options. I went and did my own research and on these colleges, and then I came back to him with more questions. Thanks to the process and his honesty and his transparency, I'm proud to announce that I'll be attending Northeastern University in the fall.
Congratulations, Jean Carlos, that's exciting news. Along with offering to and through college supports, all NYC Outward Bound schools follow the National EL Education Whole School Model. One way I've seen this model in action is by using the city as our classroom. I love when we go on Expeditionary Thursdays, which are outings to museums, parks, and other landmarks that make it easier to understand how what we learn in school applies to real life. One that really stood out to me was the trip we took to the United Nations in 10th grade. I really want everyone to know that students appreciate a learning experience that's different than the norm, one that's empowering. We're going through a lot in high school, and being remote this past year has added even more pressure. On top of that, we lived through a pandemic and witnessed an outbreak of racial violence in our country. During this time, we looked to our schools for support, and they made sure we had the space to address these issues and had input on what we were learning. Here's an example of how an NYC Outward Bound school community came together over this past year. Nicole Hanau, a ninth grader at Mel's, an NYC Outward Bound school in Forest Hills, wrote this original poem and performed it for the first time during a virtual town hall following the death of George Floyd last May.
My name is Nicole Hanau. I'm 14 years old, I was born in New York, and I like writing poetry. Oh yeah, and I'm white. I start my day by waking up. I wash my face and take a look in the mirror. At my complexion, at my cream-like skin that was dunked in privilege before I was even born. My reassurance that I could walk down the street in a hoodie at night and know that I won't be troubled by the men in blue. My privilege is armor that allows me to look a cop in the face and speak without fear that I will die. And so I will do just that. When our country turns a blind eye for those who have been murdered ruthlessly, I will fight with you, stand by you, mourn with you until justice is served on a gold platter. My privilege blesses me another day to keep fighting, and thank Dios para todo. I hear you, and although I will never understand your pain, I will rise with you till the muscles in my throat drop that 244-year weight, and use what this messed up society has gifted me, a perfect untainted box with a pearly ribbon called fair skin, and I will use it for good. I will use it so I don't have to make a poem like this ever again, so I don't have to wake up and see a new name trending as a hashtag. For our angels who have left us, so those same angels could look down on us and see victory. My name is Nicole Hanau. I'm 14 years old, I was born in New York, I like writing poetry. And yes, I am white. For a purpose.
Thank you for that powerful piece, Nicole.
Tonight we are here to honor 3 champions of education in New York. Richard Stoppel, the founding CEO of NYC Outward Bound Schools, who has led the organization for 33 years. We also honor Dr. Lester Young, Jr., the Chancellor of the New York Board of Regents, and New York City Council member Mark Traeger. These three individuals have had a history of advocating for programs and policies that protect and support equity in education, which is more important now than ever.
I'm also pleased to announce that tonight's gala will recognize the amazing work of our network educators. Over the past year, our teachers and counselors, advisors, and others went above and beyond to make sure that no student fell through the cracks during this pandemic. As we say at Wheels, our school community is like a family, and this family helped us through some uncertain and difficult times this year.
I agree. I've been a part of the Brooklyn Collaborative community since 6th grade, and I can't imagine spending this past year in a different environment. Having a safe space, a crew of friends, and teachers who really listen to you and understand makes all the difference. And for those of you who are new to this community, Perez's signature advisory program implemented at every NYC Outward Bound school. Typically, it's a small group made up of 10 to 16 students, led by an adult supervisor or teacher. At Brooklyn Collaborative, our crew meets 5 times a week. NYC Outward Bound is also lucky to have its own crew of supporters who make a difference. Tonight, we'd like to give a special thanks to the NYC Outward Bound Schools Board of Directors, led by Gifford Miller. And a big thank you to our generous lead sponsors for this evening's event.
And of course, this event tonight would not be possible without the hard work and support of our gala chairs and vice chairs.
As we kick off the program tonight, I'd like to remind everyone that the online auction is open for bidding right now and closes at 8:30 p.m. tonight, so be sure to get your bids in. Now, at our normal in-person gala, there'd be a chance for all of you to participate in a table challenge throughout the night. We didn't want to lose the opportunity to get competitive, so throughout our evening together, we're going to be presenting trivia questions to get you thinking. Let's try a few right now.
Our honoree, Dr. Lester Young, has a long history of service in New York City, specifically in Brooklyn. Which of these celebrities also has roots in Brooklyn? 50 Cent, Michael Jordan, Al Roker, or Lady Gaga? Okay, the results are in. I think we stumped you on this one. The correct answer is Michael Jordan.
How about one more question before we move on? What NYC Outward Bound school is located in District 47, the district represented by our honoree City Council member Mark Traeger? A. Leaders, B. Wheels, C. James Baldwin, or D. Gaynor McCowan? Oh, wow. Okay, looks like you guys knew this already, but the answer is Leaders High School in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. There's a lot of Brooklyn pride in our trivia questions tonight. It's now my pleasure to introduce our first honoree of the evening and fellow Brooklynite, Dr. Lester Young, Jr. Dr. Young has spent more than 50 years in public service, first with the Department of Education as a teacher, a guidance counselor, a supervisor of special education, and then a principal. He also served as assistant and associate commissioner with the New York State Education Department, and eventually returned to his Brooklyn roots as a superintendent. In 2008, he was appointed by the New York State Legislature as Regent at Large for the University of the State of New York, and in January 2021 was elected Chancellor of the New York Board of Regents. Through his years of service, we see that Dr. Young is committed to making our education systems more equitable, in particular for young men and women of color and for students with special needs. We are pleased to present this year's Educational Leadership Award to Dr. Lester Young, Jr.
Good evening. It is a real pleasure for me to be here and share this exciting evening with all of you. I'd like to thank the entire NYC Outward Bound Schools Initiative for bestowing this honor on me. I'd also like to recognize my fellow honorees, Richard Stoppel, retiring CEO, and the Honorable Mark Traeger, New York City Councilman and Chair of the Education Committee. This is an exciting evening for me for a very simple reason. NYC Outward Bound is a trailblazer in transforming the lives of students in New York City. It's an exciting initiative, and they've been able to do this by blending opportunity, effort, knowledge, skill, and attitude. Throughout my career, I've always felt the number one job of educators is to work hard to ensure that all of our young people go as far as their hopes, dreams, and hard work will take them. And I'd like to thank you for recognizing me.
Congratulations, Dr. Young. We are grateful for the ways you continue to advocate for equity in education in New York. Thank you again.
I now have the privilege of introducing our next honoree, the Honorable Mark Traeger, NYC Council Member and Chair of the Committee on Education. A former public school teacher, Councilmember Traeger was elected to the 47th District in 2013, during which time he helped oversee the city's efforts responding to Hurricane Sandy. He has served as a chairperson of the City Council's Committee on Education since 2018. Councilmember Traeger is also a longtime friend of NYC Outward Bound Schools, having attended many college marches at Leaders, the high school in his district, and is also a vocal advocate for Crew. We are pleased to present this year's Expeditionary Award to the Honorable Mark Traeger, who will give his remarks followed by a special tribute to our network's educators.
I want to thank Jean Carlos Perez for that great introduction. I want to congratulate Dr. Lester Young and President Richard Stoppel and thank them for their incredible service to our students and our school communities. I want to thank the entire New York City Outward Bound family. I speak with you today, not just as education chair, but as a former teacher, someone who cares deeply about our school system, and someone who visited an Outward Bound, New York City Outward Bound Leaders School in my district. And I will never forget the experience that I had visiting the Crew model and how critical those relationships are in the school community and how those relationships permeated through every corner of the school building. And if you look at this pandemic, what has really opened up many of our eyes is the importance of relationships and connections between students and their school communities. And there is no question in my mind that New York City Outward Bound schools really built upon those critical relationships, and many students relied upon those relationships during the height of the pandemic to get them through this. And New York City schools have a lot to learn from the New York City Outward Bound schools because we need to invest more time in relationship building. Every school should adopt the New York City Outward Bound school model of putting in time into their school day to build those critical relationships, to make sure that kids know that they're never alone and that we do everything we can to meet the needs of the whole child. So I graciously accept this wonderful award from a wonderful organization that truly champions and values relationship building, getting to know the needs of every child that enters our school door. And I commit to you to continue to be a partner to advance the needs of our kids and to really expand the New York City Outward Bound school model to the rest of our school system. So again, congratulations to all. Thank you again for this wonderful honor.
One teacher that I spoke to teaches high schoolers at Brooklyn Collaborative, and he's been biking around to all of his students just to deliver books for them to read.
Reaching out to a parent when there was a loss in the family and just reassuring them that we were not going to let their young person fail the semester because of this hardship.
And a Brooklyn school took a break from their regular class schedule to take part in the National Black Lives Matter Week of Action.
Thank you for not just doing your job, but for going above and beyond what most educators do. You stayed after school, gave up your lunches and prep periods. You came on Saturdays. You made sure that our students succeeded.
What I love most about my teachers and counselors is that this is more than just a job for them. And everything they do and everything they say is to better the students' knowledge and understanding of things, and just to help them in the long run.
Dr. A has helped me with my confidence in scholarships. She has updated me every week with a list of scholarships to help me out, so I was not alone.
I really want to say thanks to Arash for helping us with our work and being there for us always, and always understanding and listening to our problems and try to help us in any way that he could.
My crew leader, he was actually the one that wrote my recommendation letters for college because, he not only saw me as a student in AP history, which is what he taught us, but he also saw me just as a person in crew, how I interact with my peers and those around me.
You're not just by yourself. You have people around who want to support you.
And if I have any situation or problem, I know that I can talk to them personally. So that really helps for me to stay connected with my crew and my classes.
There's somebody nearby that has repeatedly shown care and enthusiasm.
We're kids that are coming from different backgrounds and we're minorities. So it's the fact that they want us to get to college, but we're making sure that we're still staying in college and we're making sure that we're going to be there for the next 4 years.
One thing I've learned from Ms. Jung is that no matter how hard a problem is, there's always a way around it.
She teaches us to be the best we can be, and we are accepted for that.
Being in Abby's crew has been a source of comfort during high school. We would often have venting circles that helped my crew and I have a safe space and a brave space to be heard and listened to. I'll always remember crew Thanksgivings and the camping trip that helped us to find solidarity within each other.
My favorite teacher is Thomas. He's always very supportive of everything we do.
My favorite teacher is Mr. Major because he's always trying to make learning fun.
If I need help with something, they would give me advice.
My favorite teacher is Claire because she could be very respectful, very loving, and very kind. And she could also be your best friend, but she could also be a teacher at the same time.
A time a counselor was really there for me was Miss Rubin, especially helping me during the high school admissions process, specifically helping me choose the schools that are best for me.
I just wanted to shout out Mr. King and Mr. Maskell for going beyond as both a teacher and a coach. I'm eternally grateful for you guys. Without y'all, this speech season would not have been possible. I could not ask for better coaches. Thank you for encouraging me and other members to keep going even when things got difficult. You continue to inspire us to be the best we could possibly be. I love you guys.
I love that. A big thank you to all of the students who participated and helped put this tribute video together. I think this year in particular, we saw just how dedicated our educators are. It would have been impossible to choose just one to honor with the annual Gaynor McCowan Excellence in Teaching Award, so this year we're pleased to honor all of our network educators.
You're right. Our teachers are so amazing. That video reminds me of an experience I had during my time at Wheels. In 10th grade, we had an assignment in Spanish class to act out a scene from a play in Spanish. Now, I'm Dominican, but I wasn't feeling confident in my Spanish for this assignment. I worked hard at it though, and it went very well. After I performed the scene for my class, my teacher told me to consider pursuing drama. Believe it or not, I made the switch from basketball, which I had played my entire life, to drama. But when I made the decision, a lot of people didn't understand. To make matters worse, I didn't get the part in the school play that I really wanted. I felt like a failure and questioned why I had done all this for nothing. Then, I had a conversation with one of my teachers who really grounded me and reminded me that at Wheels, we accept failure as part of the learning experience, and that it's important to make the most of whatever situation you find yourself in. I was able to switch my mentality and embrace the situation, and I'm excited to say that I'll be acting and dancing in college too.
It's true. Our teachers are the ones who believe in us when we don't necessarily believe in ourselves. I've always enjoyed writing and telling stories, but didn't see myself as a writer. My 8th grade ELA teacher was the first person in my life who told me that I could be a writer and helped me realize that I had a talent. At first, I was apprehensive to write about the heavy topics I wanted to: depression, substance abuse, sexual assault. But my teachers and my dad encouraged me to write what I wanted to say. I also write opinion pieces for the student newspaper at Brooklyn Collaborative, and I believe that writing and stories can be a vehicle for change in the world, so it's important to do that. One article that comes to mind is one I wrote about the term BIPOC and why we should incorporate it into our vocabulary. BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. It is inclusive and highlights an important point, that racism affects each community of color in different ways. As a Black girl living in America, any time I get to write about my experience is golden, and my school has helped me find my voice as a writer. In particular, our assistant principal Imani has done everything she can to help me grow my resume, and thanks to them, I have confidence in my skills and my future. I now want to introduce a familiar face who will help get this evening's pledge drive underway. Please welcome Kamel Arroyo, a member of the NYC Outward Bound Schools Board of Directors and an alumnus of James Baldwin High School.
Bringing so much fun and inspiration to this event. I am thrilled to be able to join you. As Zoe mentioned, I'm not only a board member, but also a former NYC Outward Bound School student, having been a member of our first graduating class at James Baldwin in Chelsea. But before that, I was also a member of the founding class at our founding school, the Bronx Expeditionary Learning Outward Bound High School. And since then, I've been part of this organization for 17 years now. I do so because though there's no shortage of talent throughout the New York City's education system, over 1 million students, there is a shortage of opportunity. And I know that every board member, every staff member at New York City Outward Bound and our network of schools works tirelessly to ensure that there is no shortage of opportunities for our students throughout our network. As you can tell, this organization had and continues to have a big impact on me, and I want many young people in the city to have similar experiences. And the good news is that it only costs $350 per student per year to deliver this transformative education, which, considering that the city spent over $28,000 per student every year, it's really a small amount for really big impact. So tonight, join me in making a donation that will change the lives of students across this great city. Either text CREW to 44321 or click on the donate button in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Give a gift of $350 to cover the cost of providing an NYC Outward Bound school education for one student for 1 year, or give $3,500 to cover the whole crew for students. Or make a donation of any size and know that it would have an impact on students like Giancarlo, Zoe, and me. We're hoping to raise $50,000 tonight, and I know that we can do that tonight in order to reach our event goal of $1 million. Thank you to everyone who has started making donations. Just a quick note, if you would prefer to pay via donor advised fund or send us a check, email Gala at nycoutwardbound.org to tell us how much you'd like to donate, and we'll follow up with our mailing address or banking information. But for everyone donating online, just text CREW For everyone donating online, just text CREW to 44321 or click the donate button on your screen.
Thank you to everyone for your generosity thus far. We'll check back into the pledge drive shortly, but first we have two more trivia questions, this time about our next honoree, Richard Stoppel. A native New Yorker, Richard is a big fan of which local sports team? Nets, Mets, Knicks, or all of the above? The answer is D, all of the above. Looks like a lot of you know Richard pretty well. I'm a big NYC sports fan too, Richard, especially the Knicks. But here's a tricky one. Richard is a man of many talents. In addition to being the NYC Outward Bound School CEO, he's also a lawyer, professional golfer, circus clown, or pilot. The answer is circus clown. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The answer is lawyer.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Now the moment many of you have been waiting for. Tonight we are honoring the founding CEO of NYC Outward Bound Schools, Richard Stoppel. Richard will be retiring after 33 years at the helm of the organization. To help bring to life all of the ways Richard has impacted this organization, he agreed to sit down with two students for an interview. Anna Finette Vargas and Tyreek Walker are 8th grade students at Launch, an NYC Outward Bound school in Weeksville, Brooklyn. Let's take a look.
Hi, Mr. Stoppel. Thank you for joining us today and having this conversation with us.
It's my pleasure to be here with both of you and looking forward to talking with both of you.
My name is Tyreek.
And I'm Anna Finette. We're both 8th graders and we attend Launch, which is an NYC Outward Bound school.
And today, we are right down the street from our school and we are at the Weeksville Heritage Center, one of the great historic grounds of America's first free Black communities. And it's really cool to be here today.
So, Tyreek, as you may know, every time Mr. Stoppel and I see each other, we tend to ask each other what type of books we're reading. So, Mr. Stoppel, what type of books have you been reading lately?
I love that we've established that tradition. Right now I'm reading a new book called New York, New York, New York by Thomas Deja, I think is how he pronounces his name, and it's a history of New York City over the last 40 years, which happens to coincide with the time that I've been working in New York City, trying in my small way to make our city a better place.
So my first question for you, Mr. Stoppel, is since you've been president and CEO of NYC Outward Bound for 33 years now, what was NYC Outward Bound like before you even came here?
Yeah, so, really there wasn't an organization per se when we first started. What we had in the beginning was more an idea or a vision. I would say a big, lofty idea of bringing Outward Bound's educational approach to New York City's young people and their public schools in ways that would transform schools and change lives. And one of the things that I'm actually proudest of is that we were able to bring that idea, that vision to life in the form of an organization that has stood the test of time. And we've gone from being an organization that brought Outward Bound programs into schools while also providing out-of-classroom Outward Bound experiences for students to one that now operates a highly successful 5-borough network of schools. What we fundamentally do at NYC Outward Bound schools, and really it's what motivates and excites me every day, is bring our formula for educational excellence, that potent mix of demanding and engaging learning, community and character, to New York City's young people, and particularly those young people who historically have lacked access to a high quality education. As part of our evolution, we're now bringing that approach to a growing number of schools beyond our network. All told, to give you a sense of the scope of our work now, we work with upwards of 70 schools each year and serve over 18,000 students like you.
So as we all know, since 2020, we haven't been in person for a while. What stands out to you the most about NYC Outward Bound's performance in the last year?
At the outset of the pandemic, we invoked this phrase, meeting the moment, as a kind of our organizational focus or mantra. And what we've been continually doing is asking ourselves the question of how we can best meet the needs this really emerging needs of our schools and our students. So this has been a year of constant adaptation, and we've seen how important it is to really put an emphasis on some of the things that are at the heart of our work, like community building and student engagement and a commitment to equity. And we've really leaned into those aspects of our work. And I would just say I'm tremendously proud of our staff and the staff at our schools for having done that. And I don't actually think it's an exaggeration to say that the work that they've done this past year and they're continuing to do is heroic.
As you know, we were all kids at one point, but what kind of student were you when you were our age?
Well, I would say that I was a good student in the traditional sense, in that I got good grades and I was very conscientious in my studies. I'd also say that when I reflect back on my years in school, particularly my middle and high school years, that I now realize that there was something fundamental missing. And it was that sense of community that I know is so present at launch and that I see and feel at all of our network schools.
Why did you choose to make this your life's work? What encouraged you to work in the field of education?
I think that's an easy answer for me. I really believe passionately in the power of education to transform lives. You know, to be a vehicle not only for economic mobility and success, but also a pathway to a life of personal meaning and fulfillment, as well as service to others. I'm so proud to know that during my tenure at NYC Outward Bound Schools, we've worked with over 200,000 young people, and along the way have helped them to discover their strengths and unlock their potential. I would lift up one data point that I'm especially proud of, and it's that the graduation rate of our network schools has consistently outpaced the city average by more than 10 points. And even more impressively, our special education students, who represent almost a quarter of our total student population, have had consistently a graduation rate that's nearly 30 points higher than the city average. I see a future in which we bring that educational approach that I just described, that mix of demanding and engaging learning, community, and character, to many more schools, together with our partners at EL Education and other like-minded allies. We're going to redefine what educational excellence looks like.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Mr. Stoppel. We really appreciate it.
And we wish you the best with your retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Richard. I know I speak on behalf of everyone here tonight when I say you are an inspiration to us all. Thank you for your years of service to this organization.
Now, we're offering you another opportunity to contribute to tonight's pledge drive. That was a really good video with Richard, and I don't know what else we need to get you moving. That opened up my heart, my wallet. I gave $350. I hope you all did too. So far, we've raised over $27,000. Thank you all. As a reminder, you can use your cell phones to text CREW to 44321, or you can click the donate button on the top right of the screen. In advance, thank you all for helping us transforming schools and changing lives.
Okay, we have one more special surprise for everyone tuning in tonight. The student choir at Males is performing their rendition of a song called We Can Dream. We hope you enjoy it.
What's your story? What's your plan? Where you going to? Where do you stand? In this moment, take a chance. Feel the light shine down. Live your life out loud. You can dance.
Thank you so much to the student choir at Males for taking the time to share your talents with our attendees this evening. Okay, it's time for our last trivia question of the night. How many students does NYC Outward Bound Schools serve each year? I hope you were listening carefully earlier. Is it A, 8,000, B, 12,000, C, 18,000, or D, 20,000?
Answers are split between 18 and 20, but the correct answer is 18,000. Thank you to everyone who contributed to this evening's pledge drive. In total, you raised $988,000. This will go towards critical support services for the 18,000 students and the hundreds of educators served by the NYC Outward Bound Schools. I'd also like to remind everyone that our auction will be closing tonight at 8:30 p.m., so you have about 45 more minutes to get your bids in.
All right, what an amazing evening. I'd like to thank our partners, the NYC Department of Education, EL Education, Outward Bound, and the New York City Council. Without you, NYC Outward Bound Schools could not do the important work it does, especially in trying times. And of course, thank you to our dedicated and compassionate network educators, the principals, teachers, counselors, crew advisors, and staff who not only kept us on track academically this year, but looked out for us and encouraged us every day to grow and pursue our dreams. To our honorees, Richard Stoppel, Dr. Lester Young Jr., and the Honorable Mark Traeger, we are grateful for your leadership and advocacy and all you do for New York's public school students.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's program and wish you all a great rest of your evening. For those at virtual tables, please note the tables will remain open for conversation and celebration. Your cameras and microphones will be enabled after the program ends so you can turn them on whenever you want. We hope you enjoy. Thank you and good night.
Good night, everyone.